Hi, everyone. Glad to see so many people filing in 5 minutes early. I'm going to give it until 11 o'clock to begin. Hi, everyone. Just going to give you all about 5 more minutes to let other people join before I begin.
Okay, Paige, thank you for recording this.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I can send out the recording after. I am going to ask everybody as you come in to just mute. And then if you have questions throughout the presentation, you can stick those in that chat box. And I'll likely wait until the end to address those, but if I see one pop up, I'll get to it right away. Hi, everybody filing in. I'm just going to give this another couple of minutes. Looks like a nice turnout so far. This is great. This is my first time using Zoom for this particular webinar, so bear with me if there are any technical difficulties. Looks like already I'm realizing that I have to admit everybody manually from the waiting room, so I might just give it another minute or two so I can make sure everybody gets in okay. And once again, I'm just going to ask everybody to mute yourself during the presentation. Just to make sure it stays really quiet. And then if you have questions throughout, please stick them in the chat box and I will address those at the very end. All right. Okay, great. Well, let's get started. I can admit people from the waiting room as they kind of file in here. Well, I'm Paige Lewanig. I am a senior marketing specialist here at Jobscan. I've actually been with the company for 6 years. I think at this point I'm one of the 2 longest standing employees. So I know a lot about applicant tracking systems. I know a lot about Jobscan. And, when I started, I was one of, I think, 4 employees. It was a very small company at the time. So I've kind of had my hand in a lot of different parts of the company. And one thing I helped out in early on was actually customer support. And I loved talking to our members and learning about their pain points and their needs. And one of the things that became really clear to me during that time working in customer support was that there is such a learning curve when it comes to optimizing your resume for ATS. It's not something that's intuitive. It's not something you can really understand without having this background knowledge about applicant tracking systems and how they function. So I went to our CEO, James, last year, and with this in mind, I asked if I could put on this webinar for our newer Jobscan users to help them just kind of speed up your job search. I think if we're doing our jobs well, you won't need us for very long. Of course, we hope that you'll come back and use us for future job searches, but I want to make sure that your job search is as quick and effective as possible and that you're landing the type of job that you really want. Sorry, just trying to get people in from the waiting room here. So what I'm going to do today is I'll start with just a brief overview of ATS and of Jobscan. And then I'm going to spend most of the time on a demo actually going through my favorite tools and some of our most popular tools. And I should mention that when I started with Jobscan, I actually started as a freelancer. My background is in writing. So I was just part-time with Jobscan. So I was actually using the Jobscan tool to find like side gigs and freelance jobs. And it worked great for that too. But, you know, I was also a Jobscan user. So I know firsthand how hard it can be to land jobs during the modern job search. And I just want to give you all the knowledge and the education that I've picked up over the years. All right, I am going to get started. So I'm going to share my screen first. I know you're all muted. If for some reason you can't see my screen throughout, if somebody can just let me know so I'm not talking about something you all can't see, but you should be able to see my PowerPoint right now. And here we go. All right, so how to use Jobscan. So basically what's happened over the last decade or two is that with online applications, there's become so much more competition for every job, really. And more competition means that there's less attention being paid to every resume. What we know is that about 250 applicants apply for every online job listing. We know that about 99% of Fortune 500 companies use an applicant tracking system or an ATS. We also know that recruiters only spend about 6 or 7 seconds per resume, and those are just the resumes that actually land in front of them. So that's an even smaller percentage. We know that about 2% of people end up getting interviews, and most of the time only one person gets hired. This is directly because of online applications. So, you know, if you're somebody who's been in the job search world for, you know, 15, 20 years, you likely know what it was like back then and how different it was. I remember early on applying for jobs and, you know, emailing my resume directly to a hiring manager. And that's just not what it's like anymore. So now you actually, when you're applying online, and I always think about job search boards like Indeed.com and Monster.com, where you can save your resume and all you have to do when you find a job that you like is hit apply, apply, apply. And it just makes it so easy to apply, which feels like it's a good thing for you, but it means there's a ton of competition for each job since it's just as easy for everybody else to apply for jobs too. And it also means that thanks to applicant tracking systems, that resume that you're sending off so easily probably isn't even being seen. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. Let me just admit a few more people here. I mentioned at the beginning of this that this is the first time I'm using Zoom for this webinar. So there may be a couple of hiccups here. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about how these how applications have changed over the last 10 to 15 years. So 10 years ago, you likely had maybe a couple of tailored cover letters. You maybe changed the name of the company you were applying for, maybe the job title you were applying for, and little things like that. But then you probably just had one standard resume that you would send off to multiple companies. And that probably worked for you. Because again, there weren't online applications. They weren't as prevalent as they are today. And there certainly weren't applicant tracking systems. So today you really need a personalized cover letter. If you're sending a cover letter, it needs to be highly personalized. And then you also need a personalized resume for every single job you're applying to. Side note about cover letters, we tend to recommend you only send one if it's directly asked for in the application. If you're more comfortable sending a cover letter, definitely go for it. But you should know that cover letters pretty much always also go through the applicant tracking system. So you're going to want to make sure that that cover letter is personalized with skills and keywords, just like your resume is. So unless it's asked for, I think it's a little bit easier if you just don't even send one. So what is an applicant tracking system? An applicant tracking system, or an ATS, is a software used by companies to assist with human resources, recruitment, and hiring needs. These applicant tracking systems were created as a direct response to online applications, because once the competition ramped up with those and so many people were able to apply for these jobs, hiring managers needed a way to be able to filter out applicants that were going to be a good fit for them. So applicant tracking systems might seem like the bad guy, but they are a completely necessary tool for hiring managers. There's no way that one hiring manager can post one job, get 250 applicants for that one job, and be able to sift through all of those. Not to mention the fact that most hiring managers are working on hiring for more than one position at a time. So this just makes it easier for them to be able to filter out the top candidates, and then they'll usually select that resume, take a look at it. But really, I would guess that they're not looking at more than the top 10 or 20 resumes. And that's not a stat. That's just kind of my guess, knowing what I know about hiring managers and applicant tracking systems. All right. So what does this mean for you? What do applicant tracking systems mean for you as a job seeker? Basically, recruiters and hiring managers do not look at every resume or application. They couldn't possibly. So if your resume doesn't rank well, or it doesn't come up in an ATS search, it's possible that a recruiter will never even look at your resume. So ranking well, what does this really mean? How to beat an ATS? You have to create an ATS-friendly resume. So you want to avoid things like tables, text boxes, unusual fonts, and unconventional formatting. The reason being is that ATS are robots. You might hear them called resume robots or resume screeners, but they're all the same thing. They're applicant tracking systems. They're robots, and their job is to pick apart your resume and put it into something called I'm going to blank on this now, a candidate profile, which is within that ATS. So the ATS takes out your work history, it takes out your education, everything that's in your resume, and it puts it into the candidate profile under specific sections called work history, education, skills. If it doesn't recognize the information in your resume due to tables and text boxes, which it often can't read very well, that information will just get lost and it won't get put into that candidate profile. So you really want to make sure you're making the ATS's job as easy as possible to read your resume. The other important thing, and the thing that Jobscan really focuses on the most, is optimizing your resume keywords. This is tailoring your resume to the job description. When we say your resume needs to be tailored to every single job, we're talking about these resume keywords. And you do that by matching key terms from the job description, top skills, and titles. Just a quick word about Jobscan Premium. I think most people who have joined the webinar are currently using Jobscan as a free member. That's great. You can continue doing that forever if you want to. You have access to our scan tool, which is our most popular tool. As a free user, you get 5 free scans upon sign up, and then you get 2 additional scans per month. Those do roll over. I want to say it's up to 100 scans. You'll also see emails coming through every week or two. Those are actually from me, asking you to share a specific blog post of ours. If you share that blog post, just the link to it on Facebook or LinkedIn, and send us a screenshot of that, we'll automatically add 5 additional scans to your account. So definitely no problem with using Jobscan as a free member. Jobscan Premium is our kind of next tier up. And it gives you match scoring and targeted recommendations, live resume editing through our Power Edit tool, and access to LinkedIn optimization. So the scan tool is a tool for everybody to use. As a free user, you have limited scans. As a premium user, you have unlimited scans with our scan tool. You also have access to our premium tools, including this Power Edit and LinkedIn optimization, both of which I'm going to show you today. As I'm saying that, I want to just, oh gosh, here we go. For attending today, you can get 20% off Jobscan Premium. You'll need this entire link here, this www.jobscan.co/promo/webinar20. I know it's a little bit complicated. I can send out an email after to everybody who attended as well with that link, but you might want to jot it down just in case. This will get you 20% off Jobscan Premium, not just once, it'll be 20% off for the entire time that you're using Jobscan. So if you sign up for a monthly plan or a quarterly plan, every time that plan renews, you'll have that 20% off rate. I'll throw this up on the screen at the end of the presentation as well. I want to move over into the demo portion here. I think I might have a few people still in the waiting room though, if you can just give me a minute. Okay. And now you should be able to see my Jobscan homepage. If you can't see that, somebody let me know. So when you log into Jobscan, mine's a Jobscan Premium account, but as a free user, your homepage looks pretty much the same. To run a scan, you'll just you'll scroll down here and you'll see create new scan. Then all you'll do is upload your resume. So I paste in this resume, and then you'll paste in a job description. Sometimes there's some confusion about what is a job description. A job description is the actual job posting of the job that you're interested in. So I went to Google. Google has a nice job search platform, and I just typed in marketing specialist job. And then I scrolled down here to the full description. You want to copy from the very beginning all the way to the end, the entire job description. Even if there's stuff in there that seems like you don't need to include it, just include it to be safe. And then you're going to paste that in here. And I'm going to hit scan. So what it's going to do now, you'll also notice this is a sample resume. This isn't my resume. Once you hit scan, it's going to compare your resume to this particular job description. And it's basing its algorithm off of real ATS. So, you know, our engineers have done a lot of research on actual ATS to find out exactly how they work. And so our scan tool is functioning as an ATS. So you hit scan, it's going to take a few minutes to compare, and then it's going to bring you to something called your match report. Your match report has a match rate here on the side. Okay, so a 37%, that's a really, really normal starting match rate. Don't be discouraged with a 37%. I would say most resumes that haven't been optimized are going to start in the 30s, even high 20s. So don't be discouraged. As you scroll down here, you're going to see things like this searchability section. Like I said before, applicant tracking systems are computers, and they process your resume to understand your work history and relevance to the job description. So this is basically just when a hiring manager goes into the applicant tracking system on their end, they can run a resume search. It looks a lot like a Google search. And what they're going to do is they're going to type in a keyword that applies to that job. They're going to say something like, I don't know, communications. And everybody who has communications listed on their resume is going to jump to the top of that list. And that's why optimizing your resume is so important. So searchability in general is just going to make sure that your resume is as searchable as possible, obviously. We look at things like job title match. Job title match, if possible, is a really valuable thing to be able to add to your resume. That just means that, say the job title is marketing specialist. If I've had a marketing specialist role in the past, I should include that exact phrase in my resume, because the hiring manager will likely search by the job title that they're hoping to hire for. So they'll likely first search for marketing specialist, and anybody who has that listed in the resume, again, will jump to the top of that list. If you haven't had a marketing specialist job before, or the title of whatever job you're applying for, you don't need to slave over it to try and add that to your resume. The most important thing always, and it can be a little bit difficult to remember when you get into this like resume optimization mode, the most important thing always is to make sure your resume is honest and readable, because it's going to land in front of the hiring manager if we're doing our job right. And you want them to be able to read it, and for it not to look super robotic, not to look overly optimized. So there's kind of this sweet spot. And speaking of that, talking about this match rate, we often say aim for an 80% match rate or higher. I personally, working with our users and talking to resume writers and career specialists that use Jobscan, I personally think a 65% is a more realistic match rate to hit. If you think about it, anybody who's not using Jobscan and who's applying to the same job as you, they're going to apply with a resume that's 37%. If you apply with a 50%, 60%, you're already way ahead of the game. So don't try to get to 100%, because once you get to 100%, your resume is probably going to look pretty robotic, pretty keyword stuffed. And the ultimate goal is for the real person, the real hiring manager, to read your resume. So, don't slave over these things trying to make it perfect. So in cases like job title match, if you're able to add it, that's great. I would say a summary statement at the top of your resume is a good place to add a job title match too. If you need some info on summary statements, we have articles about it in our resource center and on our blog. We also look for things like education match. We want to make sure that you have the level of education that this job is requiring. Sometimes when you're applying for a job through an ATS, which if you're applying online, you probably are applying through an ATS, you'll see these questions pop up at the beginning before you even upload your resume that say something like, do you have a bachelor's degree? Or do you have 10 years of experience in this field? If you hit no to any of those questions, your resume gets thrown out. So those are called knockout questions for a reason. These important qualifications for a job like education or years of experience, those are disqualifiers. And even if you lie and hit yes on those knockout questions, say you get to an interview or your resume gets in front of the hiring manager, they'll see that you don't actually have that. So this is basically just to, optimizing your resume takes a significant amount of time. I would say on a good day, it takes 45 minutes to optimize a resume for ATS. You really want to be applying for jobs that you're qualified for. There's nothing worse than applying for multiple jobs and not hearing back from any of them. So you want to apply for jobs that you're going to have success with. And a big part of that is making sure that you have the education match and the qualifications for that job. So this section here also looks at things like section headings. We want to make sure that you have headings like work experience and education in your resume. We want these to be clear and easily readable by the ATS, because again, their job is to take that section out of your resume and put it into your candidate profile. Basically, we just want those sections to be worded really simply: work experience, education, skills. Don't try to get creative with those when you're applying through an ATS. So in this case, that green check mark means I've got those sections are labeled well in my resume. And then we look for date formatting. We want to make sure you have month and year for every job you've had and for your education. That kind of helps avoid, hiring managers don't like to see that you are trying to cover up gaps in employment. So if you say you had a job from like 2018 to 2020, it looks like you held that job for 2 years. When really you might have had that job from the beginning of 2018 to the beginning of 2020. When you get into the interview and they're talking with you about your experience, if you say, oh, actually, I was only there for, until the beginning of 2020, it can look like you're being dishonest, even if you don't mean it that way. So the best thing to do is just to be honest from the start, format those dates correctly. That's also really helpful for ATS to be able to format things correctly in your candidate profile. Okay, I'm kind of speeding through here because I want to get to this section here, hard skills. This section is without a doubt the most important part of your match report. It should take up the most amount of your time as you're optimizing your resume. That's because these hard skills are those keywords that we talk about that you need to add when you're optimizing your resume. These are likely the words that the hiring manager is going to use to search for candidates in the ATS. So these are ranked from most important to least important. Don't forget about this show more button. It's gonna show you a bunch of other missing keywords. So when I start at the top of this list, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look over here at this number. This is referred to as keyword frequency, and that just shows how many times this keyword is listed in your resume and how many times it's listed in the job description. As a general rule of thumb, you want the keyword to be in your resume as many times as it's in the job description without it sounding crazy. So say I had marketing in my resume 6 times and it's in the job description 16 times. I wouldn't try to add in another 10 times. You still want it to sound natural, but as a general rule of thumb, you want to kind of aim toward how many times it's listed in the job description. So as I'm scanning down here, I'm seeing that's pretty good. Management is in my resume 4 times versus 5 times in the job description. I'll probably leave that one alone. But here I see the word process. It's not in my resume at all since I have a red X there, and it's in the job description 4 times. So that's probably going to be a keyword that I'm going to want to focus some time on. And that's also just an easy word to add to my resume, regardless of the jobs you've had in the past. You've probably had experience with some sort of process. But then if you're curious about how are they using this word process and why is that important for me to include, you can click on that word. All I did was click on the keyword there, and it pulled up this highlighted skills section. It's going to show me exactly where the word process is used in the job description. So I can see how they're using that and why that term's important to them. If I had it in my resume, it would also show where it was highlighted. So I could compare and say, am I using it in the correct way? So this is kind of a valuable little feature that I think a lot of people don't know about. The other thing I want to point out about this hard skills section is these little buttons here. If you see these 3 dots, that means that there are keyword variations of this same skill somewhere in your resume. So as I mentioned before, ATS are robots. They aren't great at reading between the lines. They can't determine the difference between like the singular version of a plural word or the plural version of a singular word, whatever. So say a hiring manager searches for development, and maybe you have develop or developed in your resume. The ATS is not going to recognize those 2 words as a match for development, and you won't jump to the top of that ranking list. So in this case, I already have it 4 times in my resume, so I might not mess with it. But say I only had it once in my resume, finding where I have develop and developed, that's a really great place to just go in and see if I can turn that into development instead. that's what I mean by making sure you're adding these keywords naturally. And the best way to do that is to find where you have other versions of that word and see if you can just adjust that word to fit that keyword exactly. So again, though, I probably wouldn't mess with it in this case, but for service, I'd want to see if I could add service a couple more times. And these red X's especially are going to be really important. I should have mentioned before, the reason keyword frequency is really important is because say that you and 10 other candidates have the keyword communications in your resumes. Whoever has it the most amount of times in their resume is going to jump to the very top of the list. And that's why that rule of thumb is to try and add it close to as many times as it's in the job description to your resume, because that's just an indication that that's a really important skill that the hiring manager is looking for. And having it multiple times in your resume is going to benefit you a lot. I should also mention that there's this thing that people sometimes do where, and I'm not recommending this, I'm saying this to say that it's not a good idea. Sometimes people will go to the bottom of their resume and in all white font, they'll just put in a bunch of keywords, thinking that the ATS will, read those, but the hiring manager won't be able to see them, and that it'll make your resume jump to the top. Don't do that, because first of all, the hiring manager is going to see your resume at some point if you do jump to the top of the list. And when they see that you don't actually have those skills anywhere, they're not going to consider you. Also, if they do find out that you're doing something like that, they're not going to like it. So don't do it. So I would spend the most amount of time in this list. Again, they're ranked from highest importance to lowest. So really focus at the top of that list. What I would do is look at any of these numbers that are higher in the job description, and I would just start adding those into my resume if they apply. I also want to mention predicted skills. Predicted skills are skills that are not listed in this particular job description that you scanned, but they've been listed on similar job descriptions that our other users have scanned into Jobscan. So maybe there are marketing budget and strategic marketing were listed in several other marketing specialist jobs that were scanned into Jobscan, for example. So we're suggesting those because we think they could be valuable. They might be worth adding if you do have experience with these two particular keywords. You'll notice that if you add them to your resume and rescan, they won't raise your match rate at all, because they are just predicted skills and they aren't actually part of this job description. So the next section below here is the soft skills section. Soft skills are less important in a resume, and so they will have less of an impact on your match rate, but they are still really good to spend some time on. These are things that hiring managers will want to see when they actually are reading your resume. It gives a sense of personality and how you'll work within that company culture. So definitely worth spending some time on. This section works exactly the same as the one above with these keyword variations, keyword frequency. Oh, this is something I didn't mention above. Every once in a while, you'll see a required skill. That is something that is either mentioned in the job description many, many times, or it's something that, in this case, it says it's a common soft skill that's found in similar job descriptions. And our algorithm says it's a hard requirement for this job. And that's because in the job description, it talks about the company culture. And that is something that's really important, especially in remote culture like today, making sure that you're going to work well with other remote employees, which is just kind of a hard ask on its own. Is something that's important to hiring managers. This is all expanded, but if it said show more, you'd want to hit that show more button again. And now this other keyword section, this will have the lowest impact on your match rate. they're important. They're not that important. These are things that might reflect like buzzwords and common industry terms. They might, make you be able to prove your experience and the things you've done. But they probably aren't going to be like the first skills that a hiring manager is searching for. So worth taking a look at still. And then this recruiter tips. Recruiter tips, this is the only section in the whole match report that doesn't focus on applicant tracking systems. This section focuses on once your resume gets through the applicant tracking system and lands in front of the hiring manager or the recruiter. So we have an extensive network of recruiters that work with us, and we talk to them about things that they look for and that are important to them. One of those is word count. So in most cases, you want to make sure that your resume is less than 1,000 words. There are some exceptions to that. I know offhand, I know education, some medical fields are, positions where a resume greater than 1,000 words might be necessary. In most cases, though, you want to keep it under 1,000. This resume that I scanned is, it's fairly detailed. I would say it's about the length that my own resume would be as a marketing specialist with 10 years of experience, and it's only 615 words. So 1,000 words will get you kind of farther than you think it will. So this is good because I have less than 1,000 words. I have a green check mark. We're also going to look at measurable results. These are important to recruiters because they prove your worth. They show exact things that you've done that have impacted your past companies positively. So if I click on this hyperlink, it's actually showing me the measurable results that are in my resume right now. So measurable results are things like dollar amounts, percentages, let's see, any sort of like number that proves your experience basically. So overseeing a $1.3 million budget, market launch of 21 projects, think numbers basically. You can say that you led a team of 5 people. Regardless of how much experience you have, you can definitely find ways to add measurable results. Even if you're a new college grad, were you part of a club where you, led other club members or, anything number related. And I always think that measurable results are just, there's something that another applicant applying to the same job, they can't say about their own history. They're really unique to you. They're unique to your experience, and they prove your worth. They prove what you've done in the past. So those are very important. If you need to know more about measurable results, you can click that question mark there and it'll give you examples. It'll tell you that, money, people, tasks, etc. are good measurable results. Next is job level match. Just like the education match, we want to make sure that you're applying for a job that you're qualified for, because it's just not worth your time and potential disappointment to apply for any job that you're not going to hear back about. So in this case, I'm applying to a junior level role, but I've held a senior or higher level position. So this is a good, I'm qualified for it. And then words to avoid. We just asked our recruiter network for words that rub them the wrong way in a resume. These are often like cliches, buzzwords. Unlike measurable results, these buzzwords are words that anyone could add to their resume. They don't actually prove anything you've done, and they're just overused in general. Think best of breed, synergy, results driven, aggressive close of deals, things like that. So this is telling me that in my resume, they're not seeing any common cliches or buzzwords, which is good. You can upload your resume and get some formatting tips. I believe that is a premium feature. I could be wrong, but I think that that's just for premium users. The next thing I want to show you though is Power Edit. Power Edit is one of my favorite tools, this and LinkedIn optimization. Power Edit is also a premium tool. And I don't know if you saw how I just got to that. It's at the very bottom on the side, the left sidebar of your match report. What Power Edit does is it pulls up your resume and allows you to edit it in real time. So here's my match report for the scan I just ran, 37%. And I can actually click into this resume and make changes right here. On the right here, it's pulling up the keywords that are the highest importance. And you'll notice it doesn't look exactly like the hard skills section from before. And that's because it's saying that, you know, this word process that I talked about before is actually more important than the words above, because it's not in my resume at all yet. So it's also going to give me example phrases, which is awesome. So what I can do is just click right into my resume and I can add process. Again, you would not add it like this. You want to add it in a way that actually makes sense and not at the end of a sentence. But when I add process, you'll see that that brought up my overall match rate by 0.5%. And then it disappeared from this, this list here on the right, because it's no longer the highest importance word. So I would just go through here. I would find ways to add these keywords in a, you know, in a good way. And now this raised my overall match report by a total of 0.9%. So this is a running total here, not how much it's raising it for every keyword. So you see how that works. This is a Power Edit was created as a direct response to our users' needs. They were, you know, rightfully so, just annoyed with how long it takes to optimize a resume for ATS. There's not a whole lot you can do about that, but we did want to create a tool that made it as fast as possible. So Power Edit is our live editing tool. Once you're done optimizing your resume and you've gotten your match rate up to a level that you're happy with, you can actually download it right here, or you can save your scan and that'll save to your scan history. You can even make formatting changes here. So say I wanted to put my skills list and bullet points, I can do that here. Bullet points are fine for ATS, just make sure they're like the classic bullet point. We don't have anything here in Power Edit. None of our formatting options are bad for ATS. These are all ATS approved formatting options, and these are all ATS approved fonts. So this is also just a good way to make sure that you don't have any of that like weird formatting that ATS doesn't like going on. So when I'm all done with that, I'm just going to hit save. It's going to save to my scan history. And then I'm going to click out of Power Edit. I can figure out how. And the last thing I want to show you is my real favorite tool, which is LinkedIn optimization. You can get to LinkedIn optimization up here. Just hit LinkedIn. LinkedIn optimization works a lot like our scan tool, but for your LinkedIn profile. And the reason that's important is because I forget the stat, but I think it's like 90-something% of recruiters use LinkedIn to source candidates. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile and you're trying to get a job, go make one today. I would say that's one of the #1 things you can do for your job search is have a really good LinkedIn profile. So how this works is when a recruiter goes into LinkedIn, they're also going to search by keyword. That's how they're going to look for potential candidates for the job they're looking for. So they might go in and they might type in marketing specialist, and my LinkedIn profile will only go to the top if I've optimized it for keywords like that. However, LinkedIn optimization isn't going to be quite as strictly optimized as a resume is going to be. And that's because you want your LinkedIn profile to not be specific to one job. You want it to be specific to the types of roles that you're interested in or the industry that you work in. So I'll show you how that kind of differs here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh my LinkedIn profile first. I gotta move this over though. Okay, oh, it's gonna make me sign in. So because I've already logged into LinkedIn optimization many times before, I hit just refresh my LinkedIn profile. But what I would do if I had never logged in before is I would first go to my actual LinkedIn page. So this is my LinkedIn profile. This is just the public view. I hit more, and then I'm going to hit save to PDF or save. Is that what it said? Yeah, save to PDF. Now that's saving to my computer, and it's saving a version of my LinkedIn profile that basically looks like a resume. That's also a great place to start if you don't have a resume. You can use your LinkedIn profile as a starting point. We also have a really great free resume builder on Jobscan that'll help you build an ATS optimized resume. So that's a great way to go as well. So now I'm going to go back to LinkedIn optimization. I'm going to hit upload LinkedIn PDF to Jobscan. And I'm going to find that PDF that I just saved. Yeah, this happens sometimes. Here's one of them. Okay, then I'm going to upload that. And now it's bringing me to this step 3 here, which is asking me to choose job descriptions or to paste new job descriptions in. So like I said, we don't want your LinkedIn profile to be optimized to one specific job. We want it to be optimized to several different roles that are interesting to you. So you'll want to add at least 3 job descriptions. You can add as many as you want though. These are job descriptions that I've scanned into Jobscan already in the resume scan tool. So the more you use Jobscan, kind of the easier and the faster LinkedIn optimization will be for you. But I'm just going to select a few of these because I know that those are jobs that I've been interested in. And now I'm going to hit scan, and it's going to bring me to a match report, much like the resume scan match report. Okay, 74% is a really, really high starting LinkedIn rate, though I will say I think the LinkedIn match rates tend to be a little bit higher because you're scanning it against multiple jobs and not just one. But considering, well, I guess those jobs did apply to my LinkedIn profile. So we're going to look for things like basic info, full name. We want to make sure you have a good profile picture. Profile pictures receive up to 21% more profile views, the profiles that include profile pictures. We also want to make sure you include location. Oftentimes recruiters will search by location to find people who are near, in the region that they're in. I would say that's probably less common now. I think many companies are hiring remotely, but still worth putting in your location, especially if you have a job where you can't work remotely. And then industry, you want to make sure that your industry is specified somewhere in your profile. Now, these are high impact things we're looking at, like headline. I would need to spend some time on my headline. And then profile summary. Every time I do this webinar, I think to myself, I need to go in and add a profile summary before the next time because I don't have one. It's 0 words or 0 characters. Do as I say, not as I do. So good LinkedIn profile summaries are 250 to 300 words. You want to make sure you spend some time on that. And then we're going to look at work experience. We want to make sure that you have at least 3 jobs listed in your work history, any short-term gigs you have listed. Those are always important and can be a good place to add keywords. Job title match, again, important for the same reasons. They're important in your resume, measurable results. And if you click this, it'll show you all the measurable results you have in your profile currently. And then words to avoid, like before. Key skills. These are those hard skills that we talked about on the resume. These are going to be super important to include. You'll see that the keyword frequency in the job descriptions is a lot higher in LinkedIn optimization. That's because it's combining all of the job descriptions I just uploaded. So marketing is in all of those job descriptions, a total of 42 times. This is one of those situations where I would say you don't need to try and match the number of times it's in the job descriptions. I would just make sure it's listed a handful of times. And then again, focus your time on these red X's, especially those toward the top. So I would definitely want to see if I can add communications in, maybe 5-7 times. So go through this just like you would with your hard skills in your resume. And then these are common skills. based on my profile and industry. So you'd want to spend some time on this too. Looks like I have a pretty good skills count though. I have 125 skills in my LinkedIn profile. So maybe wouldn't have to focus too much of my time there. And then your education section, you want to make sure your education is found if that's relevant, and degree match. So this is interesting. One or more of the job descriptions prefers a bachelor's degree, and a bachelor's degree is apparently not found in my LinkedIn profile. One more thing I need to go in and fix. Yeah, so then tips and tricks here at the bottom. These are important too. Things like a vanity URL. If a hiring manager wants to save your LinkedIn URL for later, it's really good to make sure that URL just says like, you know, I forget exactly what it is. It's like linkedin.com/Paige Luanig. It won't automatically be your first and last name. So a really good thing that you can do to help yourself out is just make sure your vanity URL is readable and clear. And then number of connections. It's good to have, I think they say 500. I'm not exactly sure what our tool is looking for, but the more connections you have that are relevant to your industry, the better your networking opportunities will be. So that is pretty much all I wanted to show you. I did mention that scan history before. That's up here at the top. So you'll see your saved Power Edit scans here. You'll see all of your previous scans, and you can click into those and see the match reports from those scans. You can also track your interviews here. You can delete these if they're not relevant anymore. And then your LinkedIn scan history is here on the right. So yeah, that is all I wanted to show you. I'm going to click back to this presentation now so you can see the code for 20% off Jobscan Premium. Again, that is a code that'll work every time your subscription renews. I'm going to address some of these questions in the chat first, and then if anybody else has any other questions, I'll open it up for discussion. Do you recommend the same font size? I think that means. This might be a response to someone's question, actually. Oh yeah, Nick, thank you. Nick, my colleague, is here and he's manning the chat, which I very much appreciate. How do you ensure that Jobscan picks up the measurable results? You know, as long as you're including them in a clear way, without text boxes, columns, tables, and they're listed as percentages, numbers, dollar amounts, then we should pick them up. I can't think of a situation where that wouldn't be happening, but if you're having trouble with that, definitely reach out to us, our support team, or you can reach out to me directly. Measurable results. Where are measurable results? Those are in the match report, but you can add them in your resume really anywhere. I would suggest in your work history, you can say when you're listing your experience for each job, you can talk about the measurable results from that job. You could also do that in your summary statement at the very top of your resume. Let's see. Good, not a crazy amount of questions. I think we can try, if anybody has a question that they want to ask me directly, we can try to do that. Just try to keep yourselves muted while you're not talking, please. So feel free to unmute yourself now.
Hi, Paige. Thanks so much. This is fantastic. I just had a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a long history of contract jobs as a journalist and documentary filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that I think that might be a red flag. You know, after a long history of freelance, I want to move into long-term projects or jobs. Any suggestions for folks that do have lots of these short-term, you know, you'd said highlight as contract positions, to make myself look more appealing. I'm thinking that that is a red flag on these ATS resumes.
And
Any suggestions?
the only reason I would think that that could be, I don't think it's a red flag for ATS. I think if these are short-term gigs, and when you're like putting in your the date ranges, it might look like you have just a lot of short-term jobs. But I think you'll still get through the ATS in the same way. You'll still get in front of the hiring manager. And I think a hiring manager will be able to, like, you know, differentiate and be able to tell that those were freelance jobs. What I will say is, since you do have such a long work history, make sure that you're only really including those jobs that are relevant to the job you're applying for.
Okay.
And, you know, you can say, you can make a note like at the bottom of your work history saying like, that you have gaps because of jobs that aren't as relevant or something like that.
Okay, great. Thank you so
but
much.
That's a good question, and one that I can definitely relate to because I started in freelance as well.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
think- Can
Hi,
someone
Paige.
hear
This is
me?
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yes, you can. Hi, sorry. You go and then I'll queue up.
Hi, Paige. This is Joanne. Great content. My question would be is if you have, for example, a skills section that is in like a column format, is it better to remove that? And does it affect then, you know, potentially your page length? Is that going to throw things off if it goes past 2 pages?
No, you know, I wouldn't think too much about page length. That's okay. I would think more about word count. And skill sections are good. I should have talked more about that. I do recommend a skills section. It's a good kind of quick way to optimize your resume. I will say, if you have a skills section, call it just skills. And then one thing that you can do to kind of prove that you do have those skills is right next to each skill, you can say what your level of efficiency is. So say if you're, you know, if you either the number of years you have with that skill or, you know, something to indicate how skilled you are in particular, because that can just kind of prove that you do have those skills. But skill sections are good. Don't worry too much about page length, but don't do the skill section in column form. Just do it as a bulleted list.
Okay. So when on the receiving end, oftentimes I see when it gets, when you upload it into say Workday, it automatically starts parsing the information.
Yeah.
So on the back end of it, does the HR manager ever really see the actual, you know, uploaded resume, or are they going strictly off of what was parsed into say Workday or whatever it might be?
Yeah, that's a great question. They do have the ability to see the resume. When what first is going to pop up is your candidate profile, and that's what your resume has been parsed into. But if they're interested in you after reading your candidate profile, there's a little link at the bottom that has your resume link, and they can open that up and read your resume. And I think before anybody reaches out to you for an interview, they are going to look at your resume.
So if that is now, if you're taking out the columns, et cetera, you're now at say 3 pages instead of 2, that's not a big ding, correct?
No, I wouldn't say so. I don't think page length is that big of a deal.
Okay, great, thank you.
Definitely more important to have more pages and no columns.
Okay,
Yeah, who was next?
me next, Amelia.
Yes, Amelia.
Hi there. I have had a very long career in investment banking. And obviously it's a highly regulated industry. My clients are hedge funds, which they're so secretive. They only just have one web page.
Hi.
They don't talk about anything. I need to I built my firm's trading desk from 0 to 4 billion in turnover in 8 years.
Wow.
I can say that it's somewhat verifiable because I've had many articles written about me on the Financial Times, Bloomberg, etc. How do I want to move into an asset management role. So I'm going to the buy side. And I'm getting some traction. It's not an unusual move,
Mhm.
but I might want to add these measurable skills in some way. How do I, and a lot of what I do is very advisory related. How do I quantify these or spell out these measurable skills? And maybe you could help me after, if I could call you and you could help me after. My CV is two pages
Mhm.
and it's under it's like at 800 words,
So
maybe.
do you feel like you just have too many measurable results to include?
I'm under an NDA.
Oh,
I'm under
gotcha.
non-disclosure agreements. And it would be, and it's a regulated activity.
Here's what I
And
would
it's
say.
market regulated.
Here's what I would suggest. I think a summary statement is going to be really valuable for you. And we have a lot of resources for how to write a summary statement. That's at the very top of your resume. And rather than, what were the old ones called that people wrote? Objective statements. Rather than an objective statement that talks about what you want to do, a summary statement talks about what you have done.
I've got one.
Yeah, so what I would do is don't call out the name of any of these companies, but instead just call out the numbers and the things that you've done, and don't tie it back to those companies. But I don't know.
Can you help me offline? Because basically all I've said is what I've done as far as building my firm's business and what the volumes are.
Yeah,
And who my clients are generally are pension funds, hedge funds, et cetera, and that's all I've said.
yeah. Shoot our customer support team, support@jobscan.co, an email. And I don't know how much I can help you, but I can definitely hook you up with somebody that has experience with that.
Customer support team, what?
It's just support@jobscan.co.
By the way, so that everyone knows this, I found this website through LinkedIn Learning, and there's a coach on there that's talking about ATS.
Mhm.
And your firm was one of the ones that was highly recommended. And I've seen comments come through about the content. I agree. LinkedIn Learning is excellent, and they are giving you some good plugs.
Great, that's good to hear. I think we
Okay.
might have time for one more question.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. If anybody else has a question, I think I saw Christian had his hand raised. If you're still here and have a question. Otherwise, if anyone else has one.
Paige, can you copy and paste the actual link into the chat before we close out?
Yeah, good thinking. For the
For the
promo code,
premium.
right?
Yes, thank you.
So this link will bring you to a sign up page. And when you sign up through this link, you'll get the 20% off. And I do have a recording. I'm going to try to send that to all of you. I just need to figure out if I can find the list of people who actually attended. Billy, do you have a question?
Oh, hi. I just want to have a question if no one go for a question.
Sure.
Yeah, and because in my career journey, I'm moving like contract from contract. So I understand the Jobscan working, but is there any good recommendation if I have like more than 7 job history? Some of those just like less than or just within 1 year?
Yeah, so depending on what job you're looking for, I would include only those contract roles that are really relevant to the job you're applying for. Once you land that interview, then you can talk to the hiring manager about all that other experience you've had. But they're really only going to be interested in the roles that are similar.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have a question.
Sure, yeah, and this will probably be the last one, but please go ahead.
Thank you. It's very similar to the last one. I have had some short jobs. They were not contract roles. They were full-time, but
Mhm.
it just wasn't the right fit. Would you recommend leaving those out or adding them and re-characterizing them?
Yeah. Do you have relevant experience in the same field that you're now looking to get hired in?
I do.
Yeah, so I would probably leave those out. And what I would maybe do is create a section beneath your work experience that says like additional experience and just really quickly list those out. Like no bullet points really describing them, but just showing that you were working during those gaps, just to kind of explain those gaps if they look like gaps. But again, you're really, once you get to that interview, you can explain all of that. And by the way, gaps in employment are totally normal. If anybody does have them, you don't have to feel the need to cover those up. Those are, everybody has gaps in employment.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that's it for today. I'm going to try to send you all a recording. Otherwise, our support team is always available to answer questions. Yeah, so let's see. I just see this one question from somebody. Yeah, I will try to share this recording. All right, well, thank you everybody so much, and thanks for the great questions. Have a good day.
Hi, sorry.
Sure.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
I tried the link, but I don't know where the promo is.
Oh, here, I'll send it again into the chat here. Oh, are you already on the page and you're just not seeing it?
No, I am, but I'm not seeing the promo.
Okay. You should just be able to sign up. Here, let me stop sharing my screen. Let's see if I can find it.
Because I already signed up earlier than.
Are you already a premium user?
No, I'm a free user.
Okay, so when you go to that link, you're not going to see much. It's going to just look like it's your Jobscan account. But if you go to, let's see, just need to locate the plans page, and that promo will automatically be applied on the plans page. Let's see here.
I'm not seeing it either.
It's applied. I see it there at the bottom of my screen. I just need to figure out how to. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make an edit to that promo so that it's the same link, but I'm going to have it go right to the plans page instead. So when you give me like 10 minutes and then go to that link again, and you'll be able to see it. If you can't, you can email me. I'm just paige@jobscan.co. I'm just going to.
Paige,
Yes.
I'm in that 2-week period that after signing up, which sort of makes me wonder if I can, have I jumped ahead now? Can I get this still?
Yeah, you technically can only use it if you haven't registered for premium yet, which you have technically. What you could do, since you're still in that 2-week period, it would probably let you sign up with a different email address and use the code, but otherwise it's only for new users.
So I can cancel out of that 2-week sort of grace period and then sign up again. Is that what you're saying?
You'd have to use a different email address.
Yeah, with a different email address. Okay, thank you. Got it.
Sorry. If you, I did the same as he did, and it just showed me the discounted price by default. So it should do that for him if he tries to do that.
Good.
If he tries to sign up, yeah.
Good to know. So I'm having this now bring you right to the plan page. So it might take a couple minutes, but then when you go to that same link, it should bring you right to the plan page to sign up. And you can email me if you're having trouble, but.
And we need to pay for 90 days in one go.
Nope, you can do the monthly plan. It's the one, there's an option to the right on the plans page, which that link is going to the plans page now. And that with the promo code, that's $39.96 a month.
Whew, that's expensive.
Well, but hopefully, honestly, what I see happening, and this is not just me trying to get you to sign up, if people sign up for the quarterly plan, they more often than not, cancel by the end because they've found a job already. So if you're really utilizing it, like I've shown you today, that 3-month period could very likely be enough.
I was using LinkedIn to apply for eFinancial to apply for jobs. And I was getting nowhere.
Yeah.
I then started PMing people, anybody heads up, and going through connections on LinkedIn, and I got traction. And I've just changed my strategy 3 weeks ago. I haven't looked for a job in 8 years. The world has changed.
It's a whole new thing now.
Totally different.
I know. Yeah, you will start to get responses if you're optimizing for ATS.
I'm only looking for one type of job, not multiple. I'm late career, so I'm not looking for a job, off somewhere in a different sector or building my career. I've arrived.
Yeah.
My question also for anybody else that's still here before we go, and thank you for listening. If your CV is getting like 69% against the job descriptions that you're looking for, should your CV and your LinkedIn profile both be getting similar scores?
No, probably not. Like I said before, your LinkedIn profile, the score will often be higher just because you're comparing it against multiple job descriptions and not just one. You don't need to worry too much about that. I would say as long as you're getting both scores above 60 or 70, more like between 60 and 70%, that's all that's important.
I'm there.
Good. That's great. Yeah.
I'm there. Okay. So
Okay.
where is this link?
So I'll put it in the chat again.
I'm not seeing it at all.
All right. Do you have the chat box open?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to put it in the chat.
I have one other billing question.
Sure. Oops.
If the address registered to my credit card is a Canadian address, how do I get past the state selection piece?
I'm not 100% sure about that. I know you can. We have a lot of Canadian users.
Ooh, I'm in the UK.
That won't be a problem. Shoot our support team a message at support@jobscan.co. I'm not quite sure about the billing stuff. And they'll get back to you right away. We also have a live chat that they can help you on.
Okay, I'll try the live chat. Thank you.
And I just put that link in the chat one more time. So just use that.
Got it.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you so much, everyone. And good luck to all of you.
Bye.
Bye.